575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Also reading your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. We have Joe on Twitter who asks, do you think Kenny Pickett will eventually be benched with more performances like this tonight? No, because this is not all his fault. This is a team that's pretty much been struggling to run the ball throughout the entire game. And when you're averaging 2.5 yards a carry, it's not your quarterback's fault. Let's not kid ourselves. One of the things going into this season, one of the questions, Paul Zeiss and I just talked about this going into this game. One of the questions for him was the offensive line. One of the questions for me was the offensive line. Would they be able to move the ball efficiently on offense like they needed to? They did it for one quarter, maybe even 2 drives in one quarter. And I think a lot of that was because of, wait for it, Kenny Pickett. He's part of the reason why they scored the 2 touchdowns they had, because he made some pretty good decisions in the passing game. They ran a couple plays where they set up the east to west passing to kind of open some things up in the running game, and that's when the running game actually started to be effective in the second quarter, because they were using space to the outside to create some room in the middle, because Virginia started playing more towards the outside. Pitt started using the space in the middle, and that's how they got in the end zone. So no, I don't expect Kenny Pickett to be benched, because he's one of the things that was actually working right for this team, at least in the first half, when they were moving the ball and scoring points. And a lot of it was because he was making the right decisions, and Mark Whipple was calling the right plays to put them in position to be successful. But if this line cannot block to set up the running game, and you have to be able to have these two things feed off each other. But I will say this much. The passing game was getting to the point where the passing game was starting to set up the run game. And if that's what they have to start doing moving forward, that's going to be a problem for them, because I don't know if that offensive line can continue to be that kind of group where the passing game has to be relied upon that much. He's thrown 37 times in this game, just so far. That's at my last glance. So it could have actually increased by this point. But if you have to throw that many times and your offensive line can't get anything going in the run game, you're going to become one-sided or one-dimensional one way or another. They were one-dimensional running the ball last year, one-dimensional throwing the ball. On this side of it, it's not really going to hurt you or help you really either way. Got a couple people on the line here. Let's go to Whalen in Washington. Whalen, you're on the Nightly Sports Call. Oh.
Hey, no big deal. I'm very positive about, collegiate football coming back. And the thing I was disappointed with was I didn't recognize the fact that a lot of these college coaches are very emotional and irrational. I mean, it's crazy what even Nick Saban had like a meltdown when he's winning 35-6, and then, like the North Carolina coach and even this Auburn coach is out in the field and yelling around. I mean, it's not really a question. You going to comment on that? Thank you.
You've watched Nick Saban before, right? He does this often. That's just kind of how Nick Saban is. Here's the thing, and this is something that I really want people to pay attention to, because when you got a guy like Nick Saban, some people say he gets a little bit too crazy when his team's up by 35 points, but really going over the small details. People get on him for being a little bit too obsessive. But then you got a guy like Mike Tomlin, who people complain he's probably not on the details enough and not getting after guys enough, and sometimes things get lax. You can't have it both ways. Either you want a coach that's on top of everything, like a Nick Saban, like a Bill Belichick, like a Bill Parcells at the height of his career, or you want a guy who's going to be criticized for not doing enough or not showing enough emotion. You can't have it both ways. Either a guy's on the details or he's not. So that doesn't bother me. Now, here's what I'll tell you. If you want to look at Nick Saban and the way he coaches, look at the results he gets. Maybe he's not so crazy. Just saying. Let's go to Pete in Squirrel Hill. Pete, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh, how are you tonight?
Good. How you doing?
All right, real quick point about Saban, and then I'll move on.
Yep.
Saban's one of those coaches, Josh, no matter what the score, he does not put up with fundamental mistakes. He believes that's a lack of concentration, and that's the way he coaches football.
Absolutely.
But what are they going to do about this baseball, Josh, in the game? I heard Tony LaRussa being interviewed on CBS Radio, and very few people in the world know more about baseball than Tony LaRussa, and he said how they've cheapened the game.
What does that even mean?
There's an endless list of guys, Josh, in baseball right now that have more home runs this year than they have hit in their careers. They have to do something about the ball because it really is a joke, and I just want to know what you think about that. Thank you.
I can't put it all on the ball. And thanks for the call. And Tony LaRussa, hey, remember when Tony LaRussa was coaching a guy that did steroids and he broke the season home run record? How interesting Tony LaRussa thinks the game's being cheapened now. Quite convenient. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're putting it all on the ball, it's not the entire thing. We're also talking about, and this is something that the Pirates' own analysts have complained about. Guys emphasizing launch angle and wanting to try to hit the ball in the air and try to hit it out of the ballpark. Everybody's trying to do it. It's not just the ball. It's a combination of things. The ball is one of them, but however, a lot of it is because, A, yes, the ball is clearly different. That's true, but it's not the entire thing. B, you have an emphasis on people trying to put the ball in the air as opposed to just hitting line drives and putting it on the ground. C, you got pitchers throwing a lot more fastballs at higher average velocities. Sometimes physics does the work for you. But for Tony LaRussa, of all people, who pretty much was managing a steroid user while he's breaking home runs and having people fall in love with baseball again, now complaining 20 years later that the game's being cheapened, it's the height of irony. Let's go to Jeff and Moon. Jeff, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh, my man. Hey, Pitt, just a poor team and a very poor conference. This Virginia team isn't really all that good either. So you're looking at maybe a 500 season. And I tell you, this ACC network, this is like a bowl game. I mean, this game started at like 7:30. We're going on almost 11 o'clock here. The commercial breaks are just ridiculous.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be some kinks for them to iron out since it's a new network, and thanks for the call. I have a hard time arguing with any of that. And Paul Zeiss and I talked about this earlier in the week. Paul thought they could be an 8-win team at best. I'm right there between the 7-win, 8-win range, and that's the best I'm feeling about it. And I just already expressed a couple of those concerns, one of them being the offensive line. I think they're going to have some issues because of that. They're going to have some issues scoring because of that. And that was the issue they had in the other 3 quarters of the game when they scored 2 touchdowns in 1 quarter and haven't scored in the other 3. So, yeah, that's going to be an issue. But that was an issue last year. Remember how they couldn't score in the first quarter or the fourth quarter? That continues to be a thing. So, yeah, all those things kind of add up for this team. But as far as the networks go, college football in the 21st century, every conference is trying to make money. They're trying to do their own thing with network programming. It's just going to have its issues. I think that's just one of those things that we're going to have to try to get used to as time goes along here. Let's keep it rolling. We will go to John and Barnett. John, you're on the Nightly Sports Call. Hello, John.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
What's up?
Not much. Just, wondering, what are your thoughts? The Steelers, we got Juju as the number 1 receiver. I really think teams are going to key on him, and the passing game is going to be a little slowed down this year. So I'll hang up and listen, and thank you for your time, Josh.
That's it?
Yep.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. That's what teams do. They try to slow down your number 1 receiver. That's pretty much the plan. It's not that simple, though. At least I don't think so. Especially when you have to look at the fact that Ben Roethlisberger has a very interesting situation that he's in. He's been pretty much in the same offense for the last several years now. Even though, Todd Haley's gone, Randy Fichtner's pretty much still running the same kind of shell of the offense, a lot of the same concepts, not much has changed there. But the thing about this offense, and I don't think it's stressed enough, a lot of the concepts this offense runs, whether it's Earhart-Perkins, some of it's a little bit of air raid, and some of it's maybe even a little twinge of West Coast here and there. But here's the key of it. It's to find the open man and get that open man the ball in space. And a lot of times to do it as quickly as possible. I talked about this after the preseason game. Ben Roethlisberger last season was one of the quickest quarterbacks in the league in getting the ball out before defenders can get to him in the shortest amount of time. So it's not even just about who your number 1 guy is. It might have been the case when Antonio Brown was the number 1 guy and he was such a high-volume player. But with this group now, I don't think it's going to be tailored to have one guy being the number 1 guy. It's going to be different this year because they're not going to be expected to rely upon one guy. Yeah, Juju's going to get a lot of volume of catches because they're going to find some ways to try to get him the ball. But here's the good part. You got Juju. You got Dante Moncrief, who I think is still a guy who's capable of doing some heavy volume. Apparently they found their slot guy in Ryan Switzer. Then you have a guy like James Washington, who I have a lot of high hopes for. And he's a guy that can probably make plays down the field despite the size that he has. He plays bigger than his size. I think that's something that helps. So if you're looking at it in terms of relying upon one guy as a number 1, yeah, it's going to seem kind of weird because I don't think that's what the focus of this offense is going to be going into this season. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll answer more phone calls and more tweets. Stick around.